All right, so this weekend, this coming Sunday, May 15th, there is in fact going to be an 84-minute blood moon visible over the entire North American continent. And then, as if that's not enough, there's going to be a second blood moon visible over North America occurring on November 8th, the morning of our elections. So, are these blood moons a gimmick? Or is there anything significant about them? Is God speaking a message or a grave warning to our nation through these blood moons? And if so, what is that message? Now, oftentimes what you'll find is that not every blood moon is significant, just like not every solar eclipse is significant. You have to look at the context. You got to look into biblical prophecies concerning patterns that have occurred and happened before. Now, what happens oftentimes is that during times of significant prophetic events and prophetic fulfillments, God will often speak through all kinds of different signs, and he'll speak through different patterns, and things will happen, especially on dates, on significant dates and years, and through the Hebrew calendar system, you'll find it. Now, outside of that, you won't find much. So there are, in fact, a lot of significant things that are, in fact, occurring right now. Now, the month of May is extremely significant because on Friday, May 14th, 1948, when the biblical Sabbath actually occurs, Israel, or when it begins, Israel was actually rebirthed as a nation, May 14th of 1948. The United States and Israel were, in fact, the only two nations on that day to actually declare the sovereignty and independence of the nation of Israel. So the month of May is extremely very significant, and it's why we are seeing all these major acts of violence occurring in Israel and in Jerusalem. Now, this blood moon doesn't occur on a Friday, the Sabbath, nor does it occur on the 14th. On the anniversary of Israel's independence. But it does occur on a Sunday, this Sunday, the evening of the 15th. Now that is extremely significant. It has two meanings. And it implies that this blood moon isn't just specifically about the United States, but it's even more specifically connected to the churches here in the United States, because Jesus was resurrected on the third day, on a Sunday, when most churches and Christians worship the Lord. Now, this blood moon will also be visible over the entire North American continent, and it's going to last for about 84 minutes, which that number, the number 84, is extremely significant. It means something. This indicates that this specifically is a warning, indeed, geographically to the areas of the United States, and not just geographically to the United States, but also specifically dealing with the churches here in America. Now, secondly, this blood moon, much like the ones in 2014 and 15, okay, it indicates a timeline of events, because in 2014 and 15, there were 4 blood moons that occurred, all falling on 4 major Jewish festivals or events for 2 years straight. So the number 4 indicates the entire world. The number 2 indicates the timeline of how long something will occur. So that blood moon, what the blood moons in those years meant was that a grave event would happen over the entire earth that would impact all the world, and it would last for 2 years. So this coming September will be 5783, because the Hebrew calendar actually begins in September on Rosh Hashanah. Now, by this time next year, in 2023, going into September, in that fall season, it will be 5784. 5784. Again, the blood moon will last for 84 minutes. So again, the number 4 represents the entire world, the entire earth. So this is extremely very significant. Now, to understand the full context of this message and what God is telling us, to understand the timeline of when these events are going to occur, you have to understand the significance of the second blood moon that is going to occur. which will occur on November 8th, on the very day, the very morning, just before our 2022 midterm elections begin. Now, again, I've talked about this several times. The number 2 represents the vision. It symbolizes the vision. Because this blood moon will occur for 84 minutes, the time frame, I believe, for when these events will begin, will start to begin most likely by the end of this month, or even beginning as early as next month. And it will last until the end of 2023, or perhaps the Jewish year 5784. So when you put it all together and you look at the entire picture, what this message, what God is actually telling us is that, yes, this is a warning. God is telling us, telling our nation, the United States, grave events are going to happen to the United States in connection to Israel and the division of the land of Israel. Just like how COVID-19 targeted churches and Christians, I believe that this event is most likely going to lead in even more severe targeting and even more persecution of the church, because the churches here in America are extremely neglectful and disobedient to God and His Word, most specifically the prosperity gospel. Now, because the United States is a superpower and we essentially lead the entire world, and we are also the world's main reserve currency. So whatever happens here, whatever happens in the United States, including our economy, will impact the entire world. It will have a devastating ripple effect everywhere, exactly how 9/11 did. So I often talk about this in our Northeast Coast Prophecies message. I have prophesied about major grave events occurring over New York City. I've talked about this since 2017 because of its involvement of late-term abortion. A lot of what's about to happen has to do with abortion, with the slaughtering of millions of unborn children, the idolatry of the Democratic Party. Now, even though, what's happening right now, you're seeing a lot of stuff in the headlines right now concerning abortion, that's not a coincidence. Even though the Supreme Court is most likely going to overturn Roe v. Wade, however, just last month, a lot of you people don't even realize this or know this, but just last month, there are now officially 8 states here in the United States that have not only codified Roe v. Wade, but they have legalized full late-term abortion into their state's laws. Many of them allowing for a child, an unborn child, to be killed right on the due date. Now that number, the number 8, is very significant. If you don't pay attention to this, you'll miss it. The number 8 represents God's covenant that was given through circumcision to the Jewish people. Male-born children, male-born babies were circumcised on the 8th day from their birth. So, yes, this is significant. God is definitely telling us something here. And our nation is definitely sealing our fate through abortion. So I believe this is going to be it. So last May, I actually had a dream. Last May, in fact, it was on May 17th, where I had a dream and I was told that China will attack the U.S. on Wednesday the 19th. Now, I wasn't given a month or a year. I was just given a day, Wednesday the 19th. That was all I was given. Now, Wednesday the 19th is in fact coming, and it will occur October of this year. Just about 2.5 weeks before our midterm elections are going to occur. So I speculate what's going to happen is that a national emergency will be declared, and our government is going to take over full control of our communications, the internet and social media, everything that you could think of, including cell phone communications, officially controlling the outcome of the midterm elections. It'll be completely unbelievable. It's going to be so shocking to people. Nobody's going to, I believe it, when people hear this right now, they're just going to say, there's no way in heck that that's going to happen. I don't believe that. There's no way in the world that's going to happen. Now, this is why we don't put our hope in elections. This is why the church should never put our hope in people or in a government leader, but we should put our hope in God alone, because this is partially what this is all about. One way or another, I believe the church here in America is going to learn that. So this does fit into the timeline, into the context of God speaking a grave warning to our nation through these blood moons. Now, the second blood moon, it indicates even more specifically something occurring concerning our nation's government and our congressional leadership, because, like I said, it occurs on November 8th, indicating that a major division and a dividing point may in fact occur right here in our own nation, leading to perhaps even civil unrest, riots, civil protests, and perhaps even a beginning of a secession of the states from the federal government. Now, like everything else, these people, the Democratic Party, Joe Biden, they love to abuse national emergencies, just like what they have done with COVID. They will use national emergencies to control everything. These folks cannot afford to lose the midterm elections, because if they lose the midterm elections, which I believe they rightfully should, then they will lose the White House. Biden and Harris will officially be impeached. I believe it. And so there is no way that they are going to let that happen. These people are not going to risk that. So, unfortunately, nobody's really talking about this. No one has even predicted this. I believe I'm the only one so far as I'm aware. But if you go back and you look at everything that has recently happened, okay, you look at the Communications Act of 1934. You look at how they are implementing this stuff in Europe. Look at all the stuff that they're doing through censorship. Look at how they have used Russia to advance all of their agendas. And they're going to do it all and blame it all on war and on Russia. Just like COVID, people are going to blindly believe them. So before you guys completely just write me off, before you guys dismiss me here, just give me a second, because before you guys start telling me, oh, you're a false prophet, there's no way any of this stuff is going to happen, you're crazy. There is an Islamic prophecy that originated from Iran that took, what they did was they took historical dates concerning Israel and Jerusalem, and they came up with an equation that prophesies that Israel will in fact cease to exist by July 8th of 2022. Again, there's that number, the number 8. Now, this is why there's so many terrorist attacks that are happening in Israel and in Jerusalem. Now, look at this headline. This just came up today from Israel 365 News. It says, Biden to visit Jerusalem with unprecedented statement. Zion belongs to Muslims. U.S. President Joe Biden is planning a visit to Israel in June and will visit the eastern section of Jerusalem in a clear message of support for establishing a Palestinian capital and the Jews' eternal capital. We're talking about the division of the land of Israel. We haven't learned our lesson at all from when our nation put forward a two-state solution back in 2020. We put forward a two-state solution that would have divided up Israel and given parts of the land to the Palestinians. 2 months after that, what happened? COVID-19 happened. So you don't mess with the land of Israel. Now, here's another article by Israel 365 News. Jordan demands total control of the Temple Mount. Jordan fears that it's losing its recognized status as official custodian of Jerusalem's holy Muslim sites, including the Temple Mount, Judaism's holiest site, as Palestinians incited by Hamas. Other terrorist groups in the Palestinian Authority continuously held riots during the Muslim months of Ramadan. Okay, Ramadan just ended. So Jordan oversees the Temple Mount right now, but there is a conflict and a race going on between the Palestinians, which is the terrorist group of Hamas, and Jordan, and they're in the race for the control over the Temple Mount. And from the looks of it, it looks like the groundwork is actually, in fact, being laid in favor of the Palestinians. Now, without going off track too much, this is very eerily similar to the events that occurred and happened in the late 60s and the 70s, which led to the Six-Day War occurring in Jerusalem, resulting in a major oil crisis from the Muslim OPEC nations against the United States for their support in Israel. Now, however, in this case, all right, in this case that's happening right now, these nations are actually, in fact, of Jordan and Israel, not Palestine and not Hamas, because a lot of groundwork was laid for the prosperity and trade between these nations. And so Biden's policies are about to rip all that up and undo all of that. One wrong turn will result in these Middle Eastern oil companies to do business somewhere else in other currencies with other nations, which will lead to a major collapse and a plummet of the US dollar. I've talked a lot about that in the last few videos. Now, in consequence of that, the plummet of the dollar will cease. It'll stop all financial assistance to Ukraine for supplies. And then Ukraine will run out and Russia will win the war. Now, when that tide shifts, I believe, and it will, so will China and our trade relations with Taiwan. Add all of that on top of a heavy debt, soaring inflation, major supply issues that already exist, food shortages. It's literally a domino effect, the one domino that can fall that will lead to a major cascade of events. So yes, there is something to these blood moons, and we need to take them seriously. Now, in the event that this might be a conditional word, there might be a chance that our nation does not attempt to divide up the land of Israel or Jerusalem. We can pray that doesn't happen. We can seriously pray and try to intercede for this. But in the event that doesn't happen and these things do come to pass, we're going to have to watch, we're going to have to pray, and we're going to have to prepare and just hold our ground and be steadfast through everything that happens. Now, remember, if you guys want to receive some more information, some content on future teachings, please be sure to remember to subscribe to our channel to help us get the word out, and that way you'll be updated. Now, as always, guys, this is going to conclude it. Any questions, comments, concerns that you may have, please get in touch with me either on our website or by email. My personal email address is listed. Stay encouraged. Keep running your race. Keep fighting the good fight of faith. Don't stop doing good. Stay encouraged, because I believe in the end, when all this stuff happens, the prosperity churches, the prosperity gospels are going to be the ones that get the short end of the stick. They're going to lose out on all this. People are going to see them for what they are. And the people like us who stay the course are the ones who are going to come up top. So guys, stay encouraged. Get in touch with me if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. God bless.